This channel began with me pushing myself out of my comfort zone and trying watercolor painting for the first time. 8 years and 1 million subscribers later, and nothing has changed. I continue to stretch myself in uncomfortable directions, and lately I just can't seem to stop. I've been doing acrylic painting and gouache and pen and ink illustrations. There's just something about spring that makes me want to experiment, and I'm so glad you're along for the ride. Today we're taking on a mini landscape that would look good in just about any medium you choose. And for all my learners, experimenters, and artists out there, stick around until the end of today's video because I have a discount code for my watercolor e-courses. Hello friends, welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell, and if you follow these videos week by week, then you know I've been trying a lot of new stuff around here, and this week is no different. So I found these cute little frames. I got a pair of them at Value Village, and I want to do a very simple mini landscape with you using gouache. Now, it is going to be so simple that it is going to be strikingly beautiful in its simplicity. That's what we're going for. Let's flip this frame over. If you ever get a frame that's just all paper on the back, it's easy. Just cut it open with a little paper knife and you're basically back to a regular frame. I just have to lift these staples. I'm gonna do that off camera, which means I'm gonna ask Chris to do it. And now we're good to go. I've got a little piece of card that was sitting in the back. That's what I'll use to trace to define my canvas, my paintable area. And then we're just going to sketch a very, very simple landscape. Now, here is my reference photo. It's so simple, and that's going to make drawing it and painting a simple painting very, you guessed it, simple. This is from Inspiration Lane on Tumblr. I'm gonna link it in the video description so that you can find it too and use it as your reference photo, and so that I can credit the source. But I am just sketching it on here because I'm not going to do a lot of detail. You know, there's sort of these two intersecting hills on the horizon. There's this darker meadow in the foreground, the little laneway coming right through the center. And then I've got a tree off to the side, and I sort of move the tree into frame a little more and actually put the trunk into the painting. But that's really all we need. We just need those horizon lines, the three sort of meadowy, grassy areas, the big lumpy tree over on the right. So don't overthink it. Just kind of get your shapes in place and then put some washi tape down to mask out a clean white border. And that's it. We're ready to paint. This is one of those projects that's going to come together so easily, and I love that for us. With that said, here are the colors I'm using: Cobalt Blue, Indigo, Winsor Green, Olive Green, and then raw Sienna and Brown. And of course, I have a big scoop of white there as well. I really want to mention that I am going to be painting with gouache, but this project would be so gorgeous done with watercolors, acrylics, even colored pencil. It's all about simplifying the forms and just capturing the shapes. And you'll see what I mean, but it could be done with any medium. So if you haven't used gouache before, I mean, this is a great time to try it out. If you love watercolor, gouache is just a highly opaque water-based medium that is great for using in combination with watercolor or all on its own, like I'm doing here. To use it, you simply squeeze it out of the tube, and then you want to mix a lot of water in before it actually hits the paper. So you can see that the actual paint is like the consistency of toothpaste, but the mix that I have and what I'm actually going to be putting to paper is much more like water. So what I'm doing here is mixing the Winsor Green with a bit of Indigo, a bit of Dyke Brown, and then like just a little hint of white. So I'm getting this really dark, minty evergreen, and then I lightened it up a little bit with that white. And that's the color that I'm using for the foreground. So that grassy meadow that sort of has the road running through the middle. I think I did go a little dark, but you know what? With gouache, you can layer, you can change it up later, unlike watercolor, it's harder to do that. So it's all good. If it's a little dark, we'll change it. For now, I'm just laying down my nice dark, cool green, and then I'm going to come back over to my palette and mix a little more white in there. So mix a little olive green in, a little white, and with a lighter green, I'm going to come up here and just paint those two meadows that are sort of the rolling hills in the distance. I'm leaving a little bit of space in between the dark and light green just because the dark is a little wet and I don't want to get any bleeding. that's part of what I'm trying to achieve, is this simplification of forms. So I'm not looking for a lot of like blending and blurring. I don't want to do a lot of shading. In fact, when I paint this tree, I'm pretty much just going to paint it in silhouette. So go with a really, really dark green and just capture the form. You know, these are kind of the style of paintings that I'm drawn to and that I like to have in my home. So why not try painting them myself? I think sometimes as emerging young artists, we get hung up on like, oh, I want to do everything super realistic and that's how I know it's good. When I paint a tree, if I capture every last detail, then that's how I know that I did a great job, and that's how I can mark my success. Otherwise, as an artist, you can constantly find yourself second guessing. Is this good? Am I happy with this? But there are so many better questions that we could be asking ourselves, like, does this speak to me? Does this capture a feeling? Is this the aesthetic that I want to achieve? And that's what I'm trying to do here. This is more the style that I would like to have in my home. This is the kind of art I'm drawn to, stuff that just sings in its simplicity. And it might seem like I'm just speeding through this, but basically I was just trying to get the three meadows like the right color. And the nice thing with gouache is that you can just layer and layer and play. And I was going for kind of a messy vibe. Like, for example, I'm using a filbert brush. So I'm doing these wide, fat brush strokes. And everything is just very simple. I know I've used that word a lot. Got to get my thesaurus out. Anywho, let's move on. We'll let that dry and we'll paint the sky. I need to take a break from these fields. I'm using indigo with like a little bit of cobalt, mixed a whole lot of white in there. And then I did put a little bit of Dyke Brown as well, just so that the sky wouldn't be too like true blue. That's another thing. Even though we're doing really basic, simple forms and we're painting things in silhouette, we can still show who we are as an artist by the colors that we choose. And I love me some muted hues, so I did mix a little brown in there just to make sure it's not too bright blue, and I got this beautiful sort of grayed out blue that's just perfect for the sky. And still using my filbert here, so just doing nice fat wide brush strokes and just painting everything in this really easy manner, very effortless feeling to this style of painting, I think. And there's sort of an effortless quality to the act of painting it. I want the sky to look a little blotchy. I want you to see those fat, wide brush strokes. Yeah, if you watch the plan with me, which is a fun one, it's all about pen and ink illustration and April showers bring May flowers. I was talking about how I've just been pushing myself lately in all kinds of weird directions, trying acrylics, and now I'm using gouache, and I've been doing landscapes, and the plan with me, I did this very detailed pen and ink illustration with tons of line shading and cross hatching, and really pushed myself to try something new, and your planner is a great place to do that. Frankly, any art, any paper, any journal is a great place to push yourself and try new things, because it is just paper. You know, I know art supplies can be pricey, but they're there for you to use them and learn from them. And so even when things don't go your way, it's still a valuable use of those supplies. And you can see I'm just kind of playing around with the sky here. The only thing I really had in my head when doing this was I wanted to keep it lighter on the horizon and darker up at the top. And I think I did that. And I'll go back and add some puffy clouds. And then the foreground, the meadows had dried, so I was adding more blotchy brush strokes. I think the layering was actually helping me to kind of get the look that I'm going for, which is this kind of slightly abstracted landscape look. And then I did feel it was time to start that tree. So as I said, it's a silhouette basically, and I used a really dark green. So that's the Winsor Green mixed with Indigo and Dyke Brown. And we're still using the filbert here and just kind of figuring out the shape as we go along. We'll basically have to cover all the white that I left. And then unlike the reference photo, I put the trunk of the tree into the painting. And it also needs that shadow sitting on the ground below. Just put a few nice horizontal brush strokes there. The filbert was perfect for that. And then I just wanted to darken some areas, other areas in the foreground. I did a little dry brushing. That's when you sort of almost don't have quite enough paint on your brush and you get a bit of texture. Didn't love that because it doesn't really go with my no shading, super simple forms. So you can see me coming back in here with a lighter green and just kind of fixing up. I do like how there's some darker areas and lighter areas now. And then I went back to the sky, still using that filbert brush. You know, I started with a round brush because that's what I always love to paint with, but it just wasn't the right brush for this painting, not for when I need these really simplified brush strokes, right? So yeah, I started with the wrong brush. That's okay, I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out on camera on YouTube, so you can definitely just get started and figure it out. No one is watching, you don't have to impress anybody. And the final thing we're going to do for our very, very simple landscape here is just take a little Dyke Brown mixed with white and we'll fill in the road. Again, simple forms. We're not doing a lot of shading or anything like that. I like how my puffy clouds are looking now. And then I took a little bit more white and I just did some lighter areas where it's kind of like, I think like a bit of water sitting on the lane. So there's a bit of a look, I want it to look like a highlight, I suppose, like the water is reflecting the sky. And at this point, I'm kind of just gonna keep messing around with stuff until I feel like this piece is done. It could be done now, sure, yes it could, but I don't know, I'm not very good at deciding when things are finished. That is for sure. I always watch the footage back when I'm editing these videos and I'm like, girl, stop, why are you, no, stop messing up that flower, stop messing up that landscape. But I don't think this was one of those times. I think I needed to make a few more changes, although I'm not sure that the sky needed so much messing about. I think the road benefited, but maybe the sky didn't benefit quite as much. That's okay. You know, it's funny, this channel started with my watercolor journey. Now I release watercolor e-courses and I'm so eager to teach and share and encourage. But when I began, I was starting a watercolor journey and I had really never used watercolor, and that's what I was sharing, that I was trying something new. It was weird, it was scary, but I was saying like, hey, you can make pretty stuff even if you have like a cheap dollar store set and you've never painted before. And that was kind of the whole channel at the beginning, a little bit hand lettering, a little bit of watercolor. And I don't think I've ever lost that spirit of wanting to change and try new things and just share it here. And I hope you enjoy that, because I really love pushing myself out of my comfort zone with the Plan With Me, with this like cross-hatching, this intensely detailed illustration for the cover page. I was like, what are you doing? Why? Because it did get away from me a little and I was like, I just don't know how to fix this girl's face, and you have to go watch it. But anyways, yeah. It's always good to try new stuff, and I thank you for giving me the space to do so. I really enjoy sharing this kind of stuff with you. And I think my simple painting is really coming together. The key with these simple pieces is just every part has to be there. You know, so the tree is there, but it has to have that shadow. And I think the difference in shading on the grass, you know, it's very simple. It's like light areas, dark areas, but that has to be there. The different colors of cloud, you know, so you have to capture some truth of the reference photo, but you can simplify. And then when you're done, you get to take that tape off and we'll see what it looks like in this gorgeous, cheap little thrifted frame. Ooh, that does look so good. The frame just makes it. Love, love, love. You can put a terrible piece of art in a cute frame or in a nice crisp white mat and it will look so good. So let's do that. Let's cut this off. When you have paper on a block like that, you just use a little paper knife, slice it off when you're done. Then we have to take this and cut it down to size. And once you've done that, it's always a good idea to give your thrifted frame a good cleaning, pop your painting in there, get Chris to, you know, figure out those staples and nails on the back, and then you are all done. It looks so cute. I'm very pleased with this. I'm glad I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And if you are someone who likes to push yourself in new and challenging directions, especially in the springtime, it just feels so natural. And if that new direction is watercolor painting, I want to offer you a little something special, and that is 10% off any of my e-courses or the e-course bundles. They're all available on my website, shaydacampbell.com, and the code for 10% off anything you want to purchase is New Challenge. Thanks for being here, friends. Hey, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I will see you soon with a new tutorial.